Hey horror fans, Bored now, back with Rachel McDonald. On this video we continue on with the Final Destination franchise as we're at the home stretch really with them. This is Final Destination 4, although it was actually called confusingly The
Final Destination. Yeah.
I guess they're doing that thing of not wanting to put people off by telegraphing, and it's the 4. But I guess to us, Final Destination 4. It's also the one that's in 3D, which you can definitely see with certain shots. So not too much to sum up in the setup. It's directed by David Ellis, who returns from number 2. He directed number 2 as well. And this one, it opens at a racetrack because that's the continuing thing. A roller coaster last time, a plane in the first film. You had the freeway in 2, so this time it's a racetrack. And a whole set of new characters once again. This was the first time watch for me. Was it for you?
Yeah, me too. I haven't seen this one.
So this will be a fun chat. Rachel, what did you think of The Final Destination?
I think this movie proves why this series should not have been a franchise, because we get to this point and there's really not much for them left to do. I mean, you're basically just coming to see some fun deaths, and we don't even really get that in this movie. So let me just start off by saying this movie looked so cheap. I don't know what happened to their budget. Steven suggested that maybe they blew it on all the 3D special effects, because everything about this movie looked so cheap. Starting with that opening scene that just kind of defied all laws of physics and gravity. Like, I don't even know what was happening in that scene. Someone literally got decapitated by a flying tire. Now, I'm fairly certain that people have actually died from flying tires at racetracks, but not by decapitation. Like, that's just going into just stupid. Character-wise, I don't think they even tried, really. I mean, and we'll talk about this as we go on. There was one character that they tried to give a little bit of like a sob story to, like a bit of a background as to, like, you know, his past and losing people. And I was like, okay, you can't just throw that in this stupid movie that we've been watching for 40 minutes where literally no one has any characterization. The acting was terrible. Like, truly terrible. I don't know where they found these actors, and some of the characters were so over the top that it was like, are you deliberately trying to make me hate these characters? Like that racist redneck guy who like actually dropped the N-word and had like swastikas and was gonna burn a cross into some dude's like lawn. Like, what the hell was he? Like, I couldn't deal with him. And then there was that asshole that, like, the one who had the swimming pool death, which I heard about. I knew about that death, so I was looking for, like, when does this one happen? Like, he was such a douchebag. And just, like I said, I think by this point in the franchise, there's not really anything you can really do. And I think the gimmick was really starting to give me a headache. Like, all of those weird flashes that, like, the protagonist was getting, like his visions, they were so poorly done. And again, so cheap. I don't know what happened to the budget in this movie, but it was not spent on it was just, everything. Like, I was so glad this movie was only like an hour and 20 minutes, because I don't think I could have watched it much longer. I felt myself getting dumber as I was watching it. And the death scenes were not even that good. Like, you come to the Final Destination franchise for the death scenes. And like, even in the previous movie that we both agreed was not that great, there were some really fun death scenes, you know, like the tanning bed scene, and there were a couple of others. But this one was just not there for me. What about you? Yeah. How did you go watching?
Okay, I'm not as negative as you.
Okay.
I'm going to defend some of this stuff now. Okay. I'll start by saying this is the worst of the opening 4 movies, so I'm definitely on board with you about that. Now, the stuff at the racetrack, I don't really care about it lacking logic, because it is a cartoony sort of franchise, and
fair enough.
Once again, people do come for it for over the top type scenes, so I'm not really going to nitpick that stuff. The stuff with the racist arsehole, I get your complaint And it's just very awkward hearing him say the M word, considering this is 2009, so not that long ago. But I'll defend that a little bit, because once again, they're doing that intentionally so that when he dies, you enjoy it more and you don't really care. But no, it is a weaker movie. I think. Yeah, the acting's absolutely terrible. I would probably say The Girlfriend was the best of a bad bunch.
I think so, yeah.
And I'd say that with her character as well. I'd say the character is the best of a bad bunch, because, like, for example, her coming to Janet's rescue in the car wash scene, I think that was quite a good character moment for her. But yeah, she was as good as it gets. I didn't really recognise anyone in this movie. I recognise one person, and that is the receptionist in the beauty parlour scene.
Oh, okay.
Funnily enough, I know her for playing another receptionist, which is she plays Saul Goodman's receptionist in Better Call Saul. So she's known for that. But she's the only one who I really recognised in this movie.
I recognize 3 of the actors. So the girlfriend, the one that we agree is the best character, she was in. I know her from The Flash. She popped up in season 2 of The Flash, and I think she's also in One Tree Hill, which I haven't watched, but I see lots of gifs off on my Tumblr dash. Yeah. Now, the douchey guy who died in the swimming pool, he was in Legends of Tomorrow, which is another Arrowverse show. He played the main character in that. And then the black guy, the one with the tragic backstory, he is from Free Willy. I actually recognized him as a minor character from Free Willy.
Funny.
So none of them are from anything big, but I did recognize 3 of them. But everyone else, no idea where they came from and no idea where they found these actors, because they are all so bad.
The characters are cartoony because they're meant to be, and you're not really meant. But the problem with that is you still have to sit through the movie watching them.
Exactly.
And they're not really that entertaining to watch. I think that's the problem. Like, the guy being racist serves a purpose because then you can enjoy his death, but obviously there's some awkward scenes with him. Although I will say his death was hilarious, partly because of the music playing.
Yeah,
Why can't we be friends? That was a good gag. So I'll give them that.
Yeah.
But overall, I do think I'm not as negative on you as you, because I think some of the things you're criticizing is the point of the film in a way. It's what people come to this from. But I just think overall this is a much cheaper version than we've had up to now. The effects are so bad in it, including that opening title scene.
What was that? That was bizarre. With that,
it's all that sort of X-ray type.
Yeah, and that heavy metal music. I'm sitting there let's go. Just having fun. I think I understand, but by this point in the franchise, you're not coming for characterization or anything deep or meaningful. But I think for me, so when we did number 3, right? Neither of us were hugely keen on number 3, but there were at least things that we could point out and say, this was well done. We both liked Mary Elizabeth Winstead. We found her charismatic as a main actor. Whereas with this one, even the death scenes, I did not find tense at all. And that's usually what you do have in a Final Destination film. You have these very tense death scenes. Even number 3 managed to do a few, but I felt that nothing in this movie was tense or had me on the edge of my seat. Even the opening scene, I think, is the worst of all of them. And again, I'm not necessarily looking for realism, because obviously we've dealt with roller coasters and plane crashes and a crazy massive freeway pileup, but at least when you're watching those, they look like they are playing out in reality, whereas this just looked really weird and really fake, and cars randomly exploding and flying off the freeway, and just does no one have brakes on this freeway? And it just didn't work for me, because some of the deaths were just laughable. The car wash scene, that was not scary.
I liked it just because of the chaotic nature of it, because when they were all running for the exits and stuff, the mad panic, that felt pretty like realistic, and I just enjoyed the visual of all these people like scattering about trying to get away from this stuff, and just stuff flying about the track. I think visually made for quite a good scene of pass. So I don't mind it.
Okay, all right.
I think it's solid. It's certainly not as good as the freeway scene in 2. I would probably have the plane scene over it, although the plane scene is weird because, like, visually you don't sort of get that much because it happens in the distance and it's just an explosion. But you know, that's because it's the first movie type thing. But yeah, but the opening to this, I thought it was a solid opening.
All right, fair enough. I was not taken. And oh my god, some of the effects were so bad. Like the people that got cut in half, they looked like paper, like they were paper dolls almost. It was just, I was so taken out of it by how cheap it looked as well, I think. Because the other 3 openings, they look so good. Even the roller coaster they managed to make look so good when it was mostly CGI. And of course, the freeway scene is just like amazing, and whereas this just didn't have that. And again, like I said, it was so cheap looking, and then that bit towards the end where the roof just fell in and just crushed everyone, that was just ridiculous. To do is rank the openings once we finish the 5th film and see how that goes, but for me this was the most underwhelming opening, and it just really didn't do much for me.
Free to this, and I think what elevates 3 is the standard of the deaths. I think most of the deaths in 3 are really good.
I agree.
I actually think this opening might be on a par with 3's. Like,
I loved 3's opening. It made me feel so out of control, and this one just made me go meh.
Okay, I don't dislike 3's opening, and the roller coaster thing works quite well, but yeah, I don't know, I don't mind this opening, but in general I definitely prefer the deaths in 3 to the deaths in this. Because if you take like the beauty parlor scene, and this is another complaint I have with this film, is they do seem to retread some stuff from older, like because George has his death is like the moment from the first film with the bus, doesn't it?
Yes, but I didn't mind that because they were saying that thing about deja vu right before it, so I thought it was kind of a funny little callback to the bus. That, you know, it's like, oh, we're experiencing deja vu, this has happened. But that was actually one of the deaths I didn't mind because I thought the callback worked okay. Not fantastic, but I thought for what they were doing, that was one of the few moments I went, oh, okay, that was actually a little clever. That was actually a little fun. I also liked the Clear Rivers sign. I thought that was a nice little shout out.
I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah. So at one point, one of the guys looks out the window and he sees like a sign for Clear Rivers water. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's a little shout out to Clear.
George, which made me laugh, is just how easily he took everything on faith. Because
I know, right?
He catches them breaking in because they want to see like the footage to see how it all plays out. And he just lets them in, like he just accepts the story, and I know. In the next scene he's suddenly part of the gang, like he's going with them, and
yeah, you're right, it was very odd. It was like he was very accepting. Easily. Yeah.
So just returning to the deaths, like the beauty parlor scene, that feels a bit too similar to the tanning bed scene in the first one. Yeah. And it's quite clever in the way it keeps you guessing, but then the payoff, I don't.
The payoff was terrible.
I don't think it's that good. Yeah.
No, because it was almost nothing, and then she gets killed by some random rock from outside the beauty parlor. So it's like all of that build-up was just leading nowhere. And again, the physics in this movie. Why couldn't the rock have just hit her on the head and like, but the fact that it literally goes through her eye, it's like, no. You need a lot. And again, I know that we're stretching the realms of, you know, probability and, you know, it doesn't need to be realistic, but it just took me out. You know, the fact that it literally went all the way through her eye. It's like, that's not going to happen. That's just stupid.
They just got a good pun out of it. But
yes, I've got my eye on you too. It's like, yeah, we get it. But the racist death was not too bad. Like, for one thing, the fact that we got to see him die, which we were all just waiting for because he sucked. Like you said, the music was quite funny.
I like that gag, yeah.
Yeah, the music was quite funny. But again, the death just looked so cheap. So it just didn't, like... Yeah, it just wasn't working for me. And I felt that, okay, so you know how in the Final Destination films, you have those scenes, like for example the teacher scene in the first movie, where you see the cause and effect for everything. So you see that she's got a hot glass with cold drink, so that's why the glass cracks and the vodka spills. Then she spills the vodka on the computer, and that's why the computer goes off. So you see the cause and effect. Whereas with this movie, it just seemed like they decided just randomly something would happen and then something else would happen. Like they didn't seem to plan out the cause and effect as well as they have in previous movies. If you kind of get what I'm saying. This just seemed very much like, oh, look, this bit of water is sliding over here, therefore it's going to make this. And whereas, like I said, in the previous movies, it was almost like the characters were involved in their own deaths inadvertently. Even the tanning bed scene in the third one has that, because you see the girls put their drinks on the air conditioner that's been turned up, so... Yeah. Whereas in this, we didn't really have any of that. It was always like, oh, this just happened to be left here. I think the closest was the racist, because he left something running in his car. But they just didn't have that kind of cause and effect that you usually see in these movies. Like you put the 3D gimmick in, that becomes your main gimmick. And so you can tell that they're working the movie around the gimmick as opposed to working the gimmick into the movie. So, yeah.
Yeah, the one that reminded me, which I got a laugh out of the 3D stuff, is the cork flying up in the air, because boy, did that cork fly.
Yeah, it did.
Way higher than I've ever seen a cork fly before.
Yep.
Yeah.
He gets his intestines sucked out through his butthole. Oh, it's terrible.
Well, it's different at least.
It is very different.
So that's the one where they're cutting between that and the Janet stuff in the car wash. So they're keeping you guessing which one's going
to die.
Which they went with the right one, because they went with the more douchey character. Because even when they were trying to convince him that he's some sort of ladies' man, I'm like, really, him?
I know. Just didn't work.
And then
his frosted tips.
Yeah, because he's perfectly good looking, but I was never convinced he was a ladies' man.
No. And that weird sex scene that they just threw in, like he's having sex with someone at a public pool, just in a tent off to the side. There are kids here. What is happening? Yeah. It was just such a weird scene. And then
I guess it's just
line
another...
after he finished, he's all like, "Have you ever been donkey punched?" It's like, oh my God, what the hell? What is that? Just to remind us that.
Oh, I missed that. Is that part of the sex scene?
Yeah, right after, when she's like, "Oh, I haven't finished," and he says something like, "Have you ever been donkey punched?" I'm like, no.
Yeah, because he says, I finished 10 minutes ago or something.
Yeah. Sat down and wrote this death. Maybe the writers from American Pie dropped by this week. But, losing your intestines through your butthole, that's interesting. That's a bit special.
Yeah. So... the Janet stuff in the car wash, I didn't mind too much. And I think the reason I didn't mind it is because the few rare times I've been in a car and it's gone through the car wash, it actually does feel quite claustrophobic and chaotic, and all the water and stuff. And
yeah.
So I didn't mind that scene too much. And as I said, it was nice when the friend came to her rescue. To
rescue her, yeah.
That was a good moment for her.
I think the part where the car was filling up with water was a bit intense, because that would be quite scary if you're... But the part that Stephen and I started laughing at was when her head's out the top of the car and she's going towards... And we're like, sweetie, what are you so afraid of? All it's going to do is wipe your face for you. Everything's fine. People go through these car washes like this. Just chill down, all right? It's all good. So again, it was like one of those scenes where I didn't really feel the tension that much, because it was just, I didn't think it was that great to rescue her. And then the next death is George trying to die. So now that we've gone on to this, George, the fact that they
talk about this stuff.
Yeah, so George, I found we had that revelation. They do hint at it before, because you see him reading an Alcoholics Anonymous book, but they have this revelation that he was driving drunk and was in a car accident that killed his wife and his kid. And that was a very intense and very tragic thing to drop into a movie that is so stupid, that I just didn't feel like it. I understood what they were trying to do, but it just didn't really work for me. And then the fact that I found it really weird that he was like, he's like, oh, I've made my peace, you know, I can go and be with them. And then he tries to kill himself over and over and over, and he can't because it's not his time. But then after he finds out that it's not his time, he's just chilling. He just goes back to normal life. It's like, if you were at the point where you were going to kill yourself, but then all of a sudden you're okay to still be, it didn't, for me, it didn't work. How did you go with all of that stuff?
Yeah, no, it didn't really work for me. Also, I wasn't quite sold on this idea that Death wouldn't let him commit suicide. I didn't really buy that. Like, if he wants to commit suicide, that's his choice. It's not the same as Death trying to kill him.
I think that was supposed to be a little callback to the second movie, although it was way more extreme in this case. But in the second movie, I don't know if you remember, but after the lady gets her head chopped off by the elevator, the black guy, Eugene, grabs the cop's gun and starts to try to shoot himself, and he can't. And then they open the gun and they show that it's actually a fully loaded revolver. And Claire comes in and she says it wasn't his time. That's why he can't die. So I think, but again, that was a very small example. Whereas, you know, the fact that this guy's tried to kill himself over and over and over, that makes it a bit too comedic, I think, and a little too extreme. Like you said, it's like, would Death really care? You know, like maybe if it was just the one time.
That's what they were going for.
Yeah, I think that's what they were going for, but it didn't really work in this one. Especially if you haven't watched the second movie in a while, and then you watch this one, you'd end up thinking like you are thinking, which makes sense. Like, why would Death care? I mean, he wants you dead. It wants you dead anyway. What does it matter if it's according to the design? So, yeah, that part didn't really work.
Yeah, it's also just the logic of it. Then it's not really like Death has a design, but if a human being makes the decision to like kill themselves and change the plan, then that's on them. That can't really be put up to Death. Yeah. But, okay, I see what you're saying, but. Yeah, that stuff. George was another boring character. I thought
he was, wasn't he? Yeah.
I thought Nick was very bland. I think
he the main dude?
Yeah, I think Nick might be the weakest lead character we've had.
I think so. Yeah. Oh no, definitely, absolutely. And the actor, where did they find him?
The actor was very bad. Yeah.
He had so many of his scenes where you could tell that he was supposed to be emotional and he's just talking like this, and it's like, come on, dude, sell it to us that you're actually worried. Sell it to us that Death is coming after you. He doesn't sell it at all. Like, you just feel no panic from him, no intensity, you know. It's just nothing.
And I think that right there is the problem, because normally in these sort of hammy, like so bad they're good style movies, the actors do like give it a go. Like, they do have some charisma to them, or it's like the other extreme where the acting is over the top and so bad that's quite entertaining. But he's just such a blank slate, who isn't even trying. Or it was all over, like all settled, because they changed the fate of things, and then it turns out they didn't, because you've got that cowboy character who he was actually like supposed to die originally. And I'll just say the end of the movie just dragged on so much. It was so boring. The stuff in the cinema I thought was stupid.
And that whole fake out where you saw it all happen and then you realize, oh, it's another vision. Like, I found that kind of annoying, you know.
How the movie opens with the character. So you don't really need to do it again at the end. No, it just feels like a fake out for the sake of a fake out.
Absolutely.
And actually, when we watched it on stream, Cindy spotted a logic hole, and that is then by blowing up the movie theatre, Death is killing lots of innocent people who aren't part of the design.
I said that to Stephen. I was like,
there's only one person.
That's why it sounds like they're going to kill an entire mall complex just to kill two people. Isn't that a bit over the top? Come on. I agree. That was just really stupid.
And Janet was quite annoying in that scene. I don't get why she was as stubborn. Because she also has that stupid line about this is where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So are they saying they were supposed to see that movie on the day?
Oh, yeah, because right at the beginning, I think they're whinging about the fact that they're at the racetrack when they were actually supposed to go to the movies. So it's a very throwaway line. But again, because this movie's so boring, you're just not paying attention to things. You just don't really, you don't really make the connections because it's just not good enough for you to pay attention to.
Too much of a thing about it. Yeah. It's like, if the friend's saying, let's get out of there, like, bearing in mind she knows there's history at this point, she should have just... But yeah, it's just how melodramatic she is about she has to stay and watch the movie.
Yeah. I read that there was a deleted scene with Janet, which apparently would have explained this a bit more, where after she survives the car wash, she walks into oncoming traffic with her eyes closed to test if the curse is actually lifted, and she survives that. So I think if they left that scene in, it would have emphasized her at the cinema saying it's over because she's already tested that it's over. So I don't know why they took that scene out, because it does seem like it would have added to that part of the character. Because I was the same. I was like, come on, girl, you've seen all of this crazy shit happen. Why are you being so skeptical all of a sudden? Get out of the thing. So what? Let's say your friend is wrong. You can always come back and watch the movie tomorrow. You know, like, is it really worth risking dying just to... Yeah, no, that was stupid. And then she was really pissing me off there as well. I was like, come on, woman, pull it together.
And I hated that it had to be a 3D movie just because it was, you know, the movie. I've written the title down somewhere, but I did enjoy the title of the movie. That was pretty funny. Oh,
Love Lays Dying or something like that? Yeah.
So funny. Because it's meant to be like an action romance.
Yes, because they call it a chick flick at one point.
Yeah, I thought, why are you calling it like a girls' movie, Nick, when it's got a title like that? But
and explosions and everything. I mean, you know.
Yeah, man, they're still going for the next speed in a way.
Coffee shop, like, that was just crap.
I did enjoy the name of that coffee shop, though. Was it Caffeine to Death?
Caffeine Death or Death by Caffeine or something, And then that sudden switch back to 3D at the end of the... back to the X-rays, rather, at the end of the movie. That was...
Yeah, I hated all that.
That was bizarre. What was that? That was so weird. It just didn't work at all.
That stuff looks like a really cheap music video from
like from the 90s or something.
I've definitely seen a music video from
I think I have too, seeing the signs. And by the way, the signs that they were seeing in this movie, like, they just stopped being like subtle and clever with them. The fact that he literally saw a sign that said like, today's a good day to die or something like that. I was like, okay, you're not even trying with these signs anymore. Now they're just the most blatant, over the top things. Anyway, he sees like something scratched on the coffee table, which he saw before, that says like, it's here or you're doomed or something like that. And then he realizes that like, Death's design was to get all three of them in the same place, and then they look up and that truck's coming towards them, and then it switches to the X-ray thing, and the implication is that they all died horribly from this truck running into the coffee shop. But again, I'm guessing the truck took a lot of collateral damage, so once again, Death is like, you know, playing big just to get a few people, just killing random bystanders.
That's true, and it's also this idea that Death had such an elaborate plan to trick them and get them all in the...
Get them just to this one particular point.
It doesn't make any sense, because in the movie theatre scene, Death clearly intends to kill the girlfriend. So it can't really have been part of the plan to get them all in that coffee shop later, because it was banking on the girlfriend being killed.
Exactly. The escalated death. How fake was that? Oh my God. Again, this movie looks so cheap.
Would you rate this one?
Oh, I don't think I can give this more than a 3. It was just really not great. Okay, I found it dull. The acting was terrible. The deaths were not great. Like I said, I didn't mind a couple of parts, like the bus deja vu bit and the Clear Rivers reference was fun. And the Redneck's death was at least fun because he was so horrible. But it's just a bad movie. So yeah, I'm going to go with 3 out of 10. What about you?
Okay, well, no, I'm going higher because I think it's just because I see some of the cartoony elements as part of the fun, part of the point. So I don't like look at it as negative as you, but it's very forgettable as a movie, very bland, and definitely the worst so far for me, easily. But I'll go with a 5.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, that's fairly average, and yeah, I mean, I can't really argue with that. I'm just going lower because I just really didn't like it, and I also think you don't love the first movie as much as I love the first movie. So for me, this movie was a little bit of an insult to the first movie, which I just love so much. So it's like, why are you attaching this crap to something that I love and think is so good? So I think that brings it down for me a bit as well. I think that the fifth one picks up in quality a bit, so that'll be a fun watch.
Yeah, again, I don't really know much about that, so we'll see what happens when we get to that. And we're still awaiting a release date for the next one.
Yeah, not sure what's happening with that.
Well, it's a bit weird because I think there's an outside chance it won't happen after all, because it's going to be a streaming movie, and I think it's HBO Max, and with all the stuff going on with them at the moment, I think there's a chance they might drop it, but that might be the reason for the delay with all the stuff going on over there. And so let us know your thoughts on the Final Destination / Final Destination 4 in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. Share us out on social media. You can also ding the bell on YouTube, which will notify you when a new video goes live, or if there's a premiere, which I tend to premiere a lot of my videos, where you can watch along and make comments in the chat section reacting to the video. So if you switch on that bell, you'll know about that stuff when that goes live, and also when I go live for a live stream. So Rachel, if you want to plug your channel.
Guys, you can follow me, Rachel McDonald, video essays on TV shows and movies. I do have a few horror-centered video essays, so come and follow me there. And my Tumblr is also linked through my YouTube. So Keith usually puts a link in the description, so come and follow me everywhere.
Thanks, guys. Keep watching horror movies, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.